Production of Ruckus is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly, and our topics this week: a new superintendent hoping to fix Kansas City schools. No quick fix seems likely for Kansas school finance. And a Wall Street Journal columnist wonders how we got into this fix with presidential politics. Plus roast and toast. But we start with our Newsmaker segment and welcome the author of a new book, A Declaration of Independence, talking about a broken political system and what independent candidates and voters can do to repair it. As you might have guessed, the author ran as an independent in the 2014 Kansas Senate race, losing to incumbent Senator Pat Roberts. Ruckus viewers will certainly recognize our guest, Greg Orman. Mr. Orman, a Princeton graduate, has been a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, a successful businessman, now a prolific writer. Greg Orman, good to meet you, and welcome to the Ruckus program.
Thanks, Mike. Happy to be here.
There's a lot in your book. We don't have a lot of time. If you wanted viewers to take away one thought from your book, what would it be?
Well, we talked a lot about this in our campaign, and we talk about it in the book. I think most Americans know that our political system is broken. In fact, we're seeing it in the presidential contest as Americans on both the Democratic and the Republican side are gravitating to unconventional choices in the 2016 presidential election. That's actually a byproduct of 2 decades of neglect and dysfunction in Washington, D.C., and we illuminate that a lot in the book.
You said you were once a Democrat. You were a Republican. Now I assume you're still an independent.
Absolutely.
What guides you in deciding what side you're on in a political debate? Is it a philosophy? Are you liberal, conservative, moderate, or are you just pragmatic and look and say what's going to work?
You know, traditionally I've considered myself fiscally responsible and socially more tolerant. And so as a result, I have had policy positions on certain issues that some people would think are more Democratic and others would think are more Republican. But part of the reason I wrote the book was to try to help explain what it really means to be politically independent, because that really is distinct. And political independence, don't think of our politics and candidates just along the dimension of ideology. We have a much broader viewpoint of it. And what I've suggested to people who think that ideology is the only thing that matters is you wouldn't pick your spouse solely on the basis of how they looked, or you wouldn't hire an employee solely on the basis of what school they went to. So the idea that we would somehow pick our political candidates and our elected leaders only on one dimension, I think is
But don't you need some guidelines, something, some belief in what government should and should not do?
Well, and that's part of the reason I wrote the book, because I wanted viewers to understand and readers to understand exactly what it means to be politically independent. And, you know, it's interesting. I got asked this question after the election at the Dole Institute. I mentioned there that 43% of Americans consider themselves politically independent. And someone said, well, but, you know, are they really independent? Don't they lean left or lean right? And they don't have a coherent political philosophy. And I turned the question around and I said to them, you know, what does an economic libertarian and a social conservative have in common politically? I mean, if you think about it, they've got opposing governing thoughts. And yet they both occupy space in the Republican Party.
We see some of that in the Sanders-Trump campaign, that Sanders backers and Trump backers can find agreement on some issues.
On a lot of issues. In fact, when one of the things that really sort of confused the political pundits is when they were reporting in New Hampshire, and they asked independent voters who they were going to vote for, and they said, well, I might vote for Trump or maybe Sanders. Yeah. And so I think what connects those groups of voters, and it's the same thing that connects the Tea Partiers to the Occupy Wall Streeters, is a belief that Washington is a rigged game that only benefits those people who can buy access to power.
Belief that the system is not working.
That's absolutely right.
I want to know about the partisan Stockholm Syndrome. The Stockholm Syndrome is when somebody who is kidnapped, for example, becomes sympathetic and sympathetic to those who kidnapped him or her. Patty Hearst is probably a good example in modern American history when she was kidnapped by the Symbionese Liberation Army and helped them stage bank robberies. How does this apply to politics?
Well, you know, this is something you're referencing from the book. book where I talked about the fact that most Americans are disappointed with Democrats and Republicans, and yet they have a hard time thinking about choosing candidates who aren't Democrats or Republicans. And even if you look at this presidential contest, you've got 70% of all voters who say they're not going to vote for Donald Trump. You've got over 50% who say they're not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. And yet those are the choices that they're presented with, and they ultimately end up and will ultimately likely end up gravitating to one or two of those candidates.
Who do you think will win?
You know, I don't know. It's the most unconventional.
Who would you like to see
cycle
win the
we've seen.
Republican nomination?
You know, ultimately, I haven't had the opportunity, like most Kansas Republicans or Kansas Democrats, to participate in the process yet, because as an independent, I'm not allowed to participate in the caucus process.
You going to run again for office?
You know, it was a real privilege to run for office in Kansas. I enjoyed meeting my fellow citizens, talking to them about issues that mattered to them. You know, I don't know whether or not I'm ever going to ask them to vote for me.
You would entertain
again.
the possibility of
Absolutely. I enjoyed the process. I would entertain it again. But right now I'm focused on this book, and I'm focused on getting our ideas out so that people can understand what it means to be independent.
If somebody is fascinated by what you just said and wants a copy of your book, how and where do they
Well,
get it?
you can pre-order it on Amazon right now, and it'll be available more broadly after May 1st.
And you live in the Kansas City area?
I do. I live in Olathe with my wife Sybil, and we've got an 11-month-old Imogen, who was my wife refers to her. She was our campaign souvenir. Yeah, we're enjoying life.
Well, thanks very much for coming in. Best of luck with the book.
Thanks, Mike.
That's Greg Orman, whose new book is titled A Declaration of Independence. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus. Jamaica Kendricks is an education activist. Gwen Grant is president and CEO of the Urban League in Kansas City. Patrick McInerney is a former prosecutor, now in private practice with Denton's. And attorney Steve Marakian is with the law firm of Wersch, Hobbs and Marakian. Welcome to all of you. Thanks very much for coming in to be with us today. Let's start by following up on my discussion with Mr. Orman and take a look at a recent Wall Street Journal article from Joseph Epstein. Like Orman, Epstein is worried about the state of American politics and asks, how did we end up with 5 such unimpressive contenders for the presidency? The 5 he refers to, obviously, are Clinton, Sanders, Trump, Cruz, and Kasich. Epstein blames the news media and the unregulated internet for lowering the national attention span and the taste for complicated discussion. Today, says Epstein, it is difficult to engage the interest of much of the public in anything above the level of scandal. So what about Epstein's views, Patrick? Are the 5 presidential hopefuls unimpressive people?
I thought Epstein was making an argument that's like blaming the stove for burning your pancakes. Yeah. I mean, because there may be a lot of coarse discourse and there may be a lot of shallow analysis out there, but we're consuming it. I mean, we're the ones that feed that, and we're the ones that, on whatever side of the equation, we're the ones that eat that up. So without us and without that kind of an appetite, that was a silly argument. I thought it was an arrogant argument, too.
So you think the 5 candidates
really
are impressive?
I know. I don't. It's not a matter of impressive or not, but remember this. Hillary Clinton ran and almost won in 2008, and she ran on her experience, and she ran as a very, very legitimate and substantive candidate. So when we talk about impressive, I think that kind of covers the spectrum depending on where you sit.
All right, let me ask Gwen the same question. Do you agree with Epstein that these are 5 unimpressive candidates for the White House?
I believe there are 4 unimpressive candidates for the White House, and Hillary Clinton is by far the most impressive candidate for the White House. She's the most experienced of the 4 people running. She served as Secretary of State, as a senator. She, as First Lady, worked in partnership with her husband through 2 successful terms in the White House. So, yeah, we have 1 very impressive female candidate for the White House in that group. So I disagree.
Is Clinton the only impressive candidate out of the 5, Steve?
No, of course not. The fact is, Hillary Clinton has an impressive resume, no question. But let's be fair.
She's the most qualified.
Barack Obama was elected as a 1-term senator. Ted Cruz is a 1-term senator. John Kasich has been the governor of Ohio and has done a great job in Ohio. Donald Trump, in my view, is completely unimpressive. And Bernie Sanders, I wouldn't call unimpressive. I just don't think this country is ready for a socialist. But to say that he's not impressive is ridiculous.
Why doesn't that tee up the question about John Kasich? John Kasich, nationwide, beats Hillary Clinton by 9 points. He beats Hillary Clinton.
He's an impressive
But
guy.
he languishes in total obscurity.
I think he would be, you know, I've said this on other programs, they just overlook Kasich. The Republican Party he can't seem to get any traction. He is the most presidential of the group they've
voters
got.
overlook Kasich as well.
Yeah, they
That's
do.
why
I
they're
mean,
not paying any
but I
attention
don't know.
to it.
That's the
I want to
electorate.
move back to the article for a minute, because one of the things that stood out for me in that was when he said that there are systems that naturally take control out of the hands of good men and even necessarily put them in the hands of bad ones. And I think it's interesting that he writes this article for the Wall Street Journal, which is owned by News Corp, which has contributed $300,000 to the campaign, or to the RNC and DNC, and has also done $5 million worth of lobbying. So to sit and say that we have unimpressive candidates and it's the media's fault, and you're writing for the Wall Street Journal that is a part of this system that is doing this, I think is disingenuous.
Well, how about this, Steve? Epstein puts the blame on the news media and the internet. Is that why we have what he believes are unimpressive candidates for the White House?
No, this is ridiculous. Look at it this way. Hubert Humphrey got the nomination in 1968 without winning anything, and there were riots in the street. But Hubert Humphrey was not unimpressive. We choose our candidates for lots of different reasons. This year, there is a rage in this country that's propelling people like Donald Trump and to some extent Bernie Sanders. It doesn't make them unimpressive people. This kind of an article, these people are unimpressive because I don't agree with them, or I don't like their policies or whatever. That's nonsense. I don't agree with anything Hillary Clinton says, but she is impressive. I wouldn't say she's unimpressive ever.
I want to wrap this up with one quote from the Epstein column. He says, "So low have things fallen owing to Donald Trump that lifelong Republicans have told me that in a Trump versus Clinton election, they are likely to hold their nose and vote for Mrs. Clinton."
Well, as a next topic, we can talk about how the GOP built this train wreck over the last 8 or 12 or 16 years, and that's next show maybe. But so to conflate the GOP situation with the Democratic situation is apples and bowling balls.
Patrick McInerney, our new producer for Ruckus, scheduling the format for the next program. Next topic.
Yes, so we're all hooked up.
Next topic, the Kansas City, Missouri School District is welcoming yet another superintendent. Only people capable of higher mathematics will likely know how many people have preceded Mark Bedell in this job. In town to sign his $225,000 a year contract, Bedell, who grew up in difficult conditions, told local students who may have similar circumstances, "It doesn't have to be that way. You can make it. What you go through at home should not excuse you from changing the trajectory of your life." The current chairman of the school board, John Heil, says Bedell represents a new future for the district. Let's ask the panelists if they agree, and we'll start with Jamika.
I always have an issue when people say new future, because it kind of puts it out there that there's a bleak future to begin with, so we need this new brighter future. And I don't think that's the case. I think it puts too much responsibility on one person, and no one person is responsible for the future of Kansas City Public Schools. I think the school district has demonstrated over the last 7 years where I've been involved as an education advocate that we are able, as a community, as administrators, staff, families, everybody, to come together and move the district forward. We've gone from 22 points under Missouri School Improvement Plan to 92 in 5 years, or not even 5 years, less than 5 years. We've also been able to balance our budget and have clean audits for the last 5 years. So to say that he's coming in and he's going to give us a new future, I don't think is that right. But he will move us to the next level, which is full accreditation.
So why is the district electing write-in candidates instead of people actually filing for the school board positions?
I think, well, with our school district, and I think people don't recognize this, we are the only school district where you actually have to go and get signatures to get on the ballot. Other school districts, you just get to say you want to be on.
But the Kansas City district has done that for years,
right.
and they've gotten
So
candidates.
people haven't gone out to get the signatures, but we still have people who show up to be elected. And I think if other school districts had the same kind of system as we do, you'd see the same thing happening elsewhere.
So, Gwen, do we put too much emphasis on what one man or one woman can do to improve the Kansas City, Missouri School District?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we do. It takes a community. It takes everyone engaged and focused on the right things. So Jamika pointed out some of the more positive aspects of the district. unfortunately, not enough of the focus is on academics. And so the future for this district has to be a future that's based in raising student achievement on MAP tests and college readiness exams. And that's where the rubber's going to meet the road for this new superintendent.
Well, people
Now,
are
when
going to
it
be dissatisfied until the district is fully accredited.
Well, fully accredited, yes, but more important, look at academic achievement, and that's how.
Well, that's how they get to be accredited.
That is one of the primary focuses, yes. So how are they doing on their ACT tests? How are they doing on their MAP scores? So we just elected a new board. And so I think there is certainly an opportunity where you have a board now that has 6 women. You have 7 minorities. You have 6 African Americans, 1 Latino, 2 whites, but 6 females. That's unprecedented for the board. So we should be celebrating the diversity in the leadership at the policymaking level. But when the superintendent hits the ground, he's got to be focused on academic achievement. And I think then we'll have a bright future.
Steve, will it make a lot of difference that this man comes from a difficult background and has been quite a success story in his own right? Can he say to students, as I quoted, hey, I know things are tough, but you can overcome it. I did. You can be successful.
I think that's very impressive, and I think he should say that. Do I think it'll make a difference? And the answer is no. I think he's going to do as good a job as anybody that comes from his background and his expertise and his intellect. He seems to be an incredibly gifted person. I think he'll do as good a job as he can do. I think the problems in the Kansas City, Missouri School District are far beyond any one person. I'm glad we have good people on the board, and I hope they'll do a good job. I think the problems, though, relate more to the idea that we should combine and make a larger district as opposed to all these split districts we have in North Kansas City and Lee's Summit and Independent and Center and so forth. I think that is a significant problem. I think this individual seems to me to be superbly qualified, and I think he'll do a good job for 2 or 3 years until he leaves.
But Patrick, this superintendent, no superintendent can make parents who don't care anything about their children's future be good parents.
You know what? I disagree with that.
I hate it when
Thank
people
you.
say that.
Well, isn't that true? You can't
No,
legislate
not
good
true.
parenting. You can legislate good parenting.
The parents are not people
parents
who
are
don't
not in the
care.
class.
Well, we don't.
That's to
Some obviously
assume-
don't care.
That's to assume that people who are sending their kids to these schools don't want the best for their kids. I think that's an incorrect assumption.
It absolutely
Any
Aren't there
parent
lots
wants
of one
the best
parent
for their
homes in the
kids.
Kansas
That
City
doesn't
school
mean
What does
they
that
don't
mean?
care for their
Because
children.
it's a one-parent home, suddenly you don't want the best for your kids? Come on. I mean, that's a ridiculous argument.
So everything is wholesome in the Kansas City, Missouri school
It's
district.
not that
The
it's
children have a
wholesome. There are
great home life,
challenges.
Come on,
and
Mike.
But
they
to
should
say
come to
that
school
parents
fully
don't
engaged,
care
ready
is
to
just
learn.
no.
Mike, here's what I wonder about. I wonder about the messaging in this, because the
Yes.
messaging is that this guy's being handed 6 tons of crap and,
that's not true.
expected
And he's not.
to spend 18 months. But the metrics matter here. So when Jamika talks about the metrics over the last couple, 3, 4, 5 years, those count. So if we see this district as on the way up and him stepping in to shepherd it along that way, that's a much better message. But the message that's out there is he's being handed this disaster and left to toil for 18 months until he gets run out. I mean, and that's the wrong
Well,
message.
it's not been
That's the wrong-
exactly a success story, has it, over the
it's the-
past decade or 2 or 3?
Look at the last 5 years. I mean,
Thank
look
you.
at scores. Look at
Well, don't look at the, if you look at the test scores
It
over
was
the last
accredited,
5 years,
wasn't
that's
it?
not
And
going
then
to be a
dropped
pretty
below?
picture. No,
the test
no.
scores are still going up. And one of the things that really frustrates me is people say, well, if we look at the test scores, they're not as high as they should be. Well, in Missouri, we are still at 50% advanced and proficient in most subject areas.
But
and that's in
Jamika,
Missouri, so we're still
Jamika,
failing.
70%
but we're
of
also
the kids are
but,
not
but
proficient.
we
Jamika, hang
have
on a
still,
second.
but we have still moved up.
Hang on a
But we
second.
can't try to paint a rosy picture around academics. We have to tell the truth about how many kids we're leaving behind
You can't
in
keep
math
calling
and
the
science.
kids failing and expect them
We're
to
not,
succeed.
we're
You
not, we're
can't
not
do that.
calling that, but they are failing.
Gwen is
We've got
absolutely
to
right.
change what we're doing
It's
so
not
that they can
labeling.
succeed. It's
Gwen-
not labeling.
Gwen is absolutely
the facts
right.
are what they are.
It's not
and I
message,
fight for
it's
that all
not
the time.
labeling.
We've got to do a better job of moving our kids academically. We don't need to make excuses for the fact that the district is failing them. They
We're
are.
not.
The proof is in the pudding.
We're not
People
making
keep fleeing.
excuses.
Parents don't want to put their kids in a system that
But we are
does not
not making
produce the
excuses.
right
All right.
academic
We are
outcome.
saying
We gotta
you
move
need
on.
to recognize the
And I do
progress.
recognize the progress. It's just not enough.
Time.
Sorry.
By now, if you haven't heard about the school finance controversy in Kansas, you must be plugged into an iPod all day. The state Supreme Court has ruled that the current law is unconstitutional. Among its defects, failure to fairly distribute money to schools, a lack of equity. The court threatens to block schools from opening this fall if the problem is not resolved by June the 30th. So the legislature passed another bill aimed at equity, and now Governor Brownback has signed it. The governor describes the bill as the result of delicate legislative compromise, one I respectfully endorse and that the court should review with appropriate deference. Key word here is deference. The conservative governor and legislature believe that courts should defer on political issues to the elected branches. Is he on solid ground with that argument, Steve?
Partially. The issue is not whether they should defer in terms of the policy of whether or not a formula is discriminatory. Where they should defer, and this is a difficult concept for many progressive politicians and judges to understand, is that under the Constitution, the legislature appropriates, not the courts. So to the extent that the court in the past in Kansas has, and if they would in the future, if they get into this issue of whether the amount of appropriation is the correct amount, they're overstepping their bounds. They have no more power under the Kansas Constitution of suitable provision for education than the U.S. Supreme Court would have under the General Welfare Clause to tell the Congress, you're not appropriating enough for defense, or we don't like your formula for Medicare and Social Security payments. They don't have that prerogative. So the Kansas Supreme Court should be looking solely at this plan, not in terms of how much is appropriated, but whether or not the plan passes constitutional muster in terms of discrimination. In other words, is it reasonably equitable distribution? If it is, the Kansas Supreme Court should step back and say, we're not going to tell you, just because some lawyer in Wichita believes you ought to be appropriating more, we're not going to tell you have to appropriate $150 million instead of $130 million.
But they have done this in the past.
They have, and that's why the governor is on solid ground when he says, defer to the amount we appropriate. But he's not on solid ground when he says, you have no prerogative to tell us that our plan is discriminatory.
Do you agree with that, Patrick?
You got to hold my hand here because I think I agree with Marakian.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
no.
I know. Steve's right.
So the courts don't have unlimited power.
No, listen. Steve's right to a point, okay? Steve,
I'm right. I'm right.
When the funding, right? Circle the date on the calendar. It's a matter of degree. It's not a black or white situation. It's a matter of degree. So if the court decides that whatever level of funding the legislature and now the governor has provided is deficient in delivering the appropriate services, they can certainly say not enough. When they get into the micro budgeting, when they get into dictating on a micro level, I think Steve has a very valid point. But I think that it is purely their position and their right to say this is either sufficient or insufficient.
Okay, we've got to wrap this up, but we have about a minute. Jamika, would it be good for students in Kansas for the state Supreme Court to close schools, not allow them to open, regardless of how much equitability there is in finance?
I think long term it would probably be better for the courts to allow the schools to close in order to make sure that the system is equitable, because long term that benefits students, short term no.
You think the legislature and governor are trying to solve this problem in Kansas, Gwen?
Are they trying to solve it?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, they kicked the can down the road with this last decision they made. It didn't really do anything to equalize funding for the school.
Well, there's
that's the bottom line. All they did was change,
Hearing is coming up in May. We'll see what happens with a June deadline. Now it is time for Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes congratulate or eviscerate people and events in the news, and we start with Steve.
I'm roasting the singer Bono for scolding us for not bringing in more Syrian refugees. How nice it is to live in your safe little world surrounded by security and sycophants. I have very close friends who live in Brussels who were injured in the airport attack. I have very close Parisian friends who are afraid to take their children to a park. 5 terrorists are enough to form a cell to carry out an attack. The president wants to bring in 200,000 unvetted Syrians. Bono wants to bring in even more. If only 1 in 1,000 is a terrorist, we've got serious problems. When they bomb your friends and your family, Bono, I'll listen. Until then, shut up and sing.
Jamika.
So I get to toast Jessie Kirksey. She was my elementary school principal. She's principal at Hartman right now. And on April 9th, her students, Kareem and Salim Nash, their twin brothers, and Joseph Davis won the top award for intermediate students for their science project that that's name is so technical that I can't pronounce it. And it was the 55th anniversary of the Kansas City Science Fair. And then she had Nyla Redmond, Tatum Williams, and Ricardo Stanley, who got exemplary recognition for their bubble wrap Keeping It Cool project. So congratulations to those students and my principal.
All right, Patrick.
I've been proud of my city for a lot of reasons for the last year, 2 years, 3 years. I would rank the last week up there with any of those moments. When this city welcomed the Al Aboud family from Syria, Mr. Aboud and his 5 kids, with arms out, with jobs, with offers of help, with everything that our city is known for, I have never been more proud in my life. And by the way, he was a vetted, backgrounded Syrian refugee who fled for 3 years from the disaster in the Middle East.
Steve was on the welcoming committee.
Yeah.
Gwen?
I'm roasting Katina Turner, a now former substitute teacher with the Kansas City Public Schools, who was teaching at the African Centered Academy at Southeast, who took her students out of the classroom and drove them to the polls to work for her as in her bid to run for election for the Kansas City School Board. She offered them extra credit, took them out of class without permission of their parents nor the school district. Shame on you, Katina Taylor.
Finally, here's a toast to the Da Vinci exhibition running for the rest of this month at Union Station. Leonardo da Vinci personifies what is known as a Renaissance man, doing many things and doing them all well. He was an inventor, painter, sculptor, writer, mathematician, historian, and on and on and on. See the exhibition and you'll know so much about Leonardo da Vinci that by the time you leave, you'll start calling him Lenny. And that is Ruckus for this time. We're back next Thursday at 7. Now for the Ruckettes and the crew, I'm Mike Shannon saying thanks very much for watching and good night.